Continue working on your file from the last movie. If you need to, open the file cityblocks roads inter.max to pick up from where the last movie ended. At this point, you probably still have a set of splines you used as a reference earlier. You can hide or even delete those, as they have served their purpose. The main infrastructure is already in place. Now you need the inner, smaller roads and intersections. You will use the existing infrastructure to extract the intersections needed for the small roads. Go to the top view and then unhide the plane 001 reference object you used earlier in the tutorial. This makes it easier to see where the inner roads and intersections are located. Select the existing roadworks, they are one object now, and go to the Modify panel. In polygon mode, select the center intersection cross. Shift move the selection to create a cloned element in the top left quadrant. The new intersection is obviously too big, twice as big in fact, as it has 4 lanes instead of 2. You may be tempted to scale it down by half, but doing so also scales down the width of the pedestrian crossings. It is safer to move vertices in relative mode to ensure you are only scaling down the areas that need it. Before you remove the left part of the intersection that has no road extension, consider the T-junctions here, here, and here. These still require stop lines, pedestrian crossings, and chamfered corner areas. To create those, simply select the right set of polygons and Shift Move to clone them into the correct spot. Once that is done, you can use the same technique to clone elements into other areas. Just make sure you block the intersections out. You'll worry about cleanup in a moment. If you have angle roads, as you do here in the bottom right corner, start by setting up the main intersection by copying it from another element. Before you start reshaping it, you may want to extract the T-junction to the right. You may be tempted in rotating some vertices, but the truth is the road markings should be more aligned with the intersection. So instead, select all vertices that make that intersection and apply a skew modifier. The skew modifier is only applied to this intersection, and you can now set its parameters. In this case, make sure it's set in the y-axis and adjust the amount until the intersection is properly aligned with the reference image. Once this is done, convert the object into an editable poly again to make the changes. Now you can go back to selecting polygons and fine-tune the position of the intersection horizontally. You can also extract the T-junctions as you did earlier using Shift Move. Once everything is in place, you can select and delete any unwanted polygons that lead nowhere. The inner intersections are now blocked out. Exit subobject mode. Select the reference plane, plane 01, and hide it again so you can see the roadworks better. Before you add rows between intersections, you still need a bit of cleanup. You need to clean up the geometry between the T-junctions and the wider roads, and you need to ensure the proper materials are applied. Remember, the inner roads are 2 lane wide, and currently they still have the copied material with a bitmap representing 4 lanes. First, you'll adjust the geometry. For that, You need a few cuts and slices so that vertices can be welded together. To keep cuts clean and straight, you'll use the Slice tool. In polygon mode, select the polygons you want to cut through, let's say these two in the bottom left quadrant. Click the Slice Plane button. The slice plane appears in yellow and is flat on the ground. Rotate it 90 degrees or minus 90 degrees on the y-axis so that it's vertical. Now move it over where the T-junction meets the main roads. You need 4 cuts, so position the slice plane properly and click the Slice button. If you can't see properly with the red shaded polygon, you can disable that mode with F2. Once the 4 cuts are done, exit Slice Plane mode. Repeat the procedure by selecting more polygons and slicing them. When you need to, rotate the slice plane 90 degrees in Z to slice polygons horizontally. For angled cuts, you can certainly use the slice plane or simply use the quick slice method. The same principle applies, but quick slice uses 2 points to define a custom slice plane. Once all the cuts are in place, you need to weld vertices together. Here, you need to use target weld to move one vertex to another. The regular vertex weld tool moves selected vertices to a center point, but in this case, vertices on the main roads need to remain in place. Using target weld, simply click the vertex you want to relocate and then click the vertex you want to weld it to. Repeat as needed until all intersections have been cleaned up. Exit target weld mode when done. Next, you need to adjust the materials for the stop line sections. They are still showing 4 lanes, as this was copied over from the main roads. Depending upon whether an inner road is a one-way or a two-way street, the markings for the stop lines, and the road for that matter, will be different. For that reason, you need to account for both situations. As an example, let's assume that most inner roads will be two-way streets, except for that little stretch here that will only flow left to right. Go to the Slate Material Editor and add 2 new submaterials to the existing materials tree. Delete the standard material nodes that get created and replace them with Arc and Design matte materials. Make sure the new materials are set to show in the viewport and add the appropriate 2-lane stop lines bitmap to them. The first one represents a stop line for a two-lane, one-way road. The second for a two-lane, two-way road. They are set as IDs number 8 and 9 respectively. Close the material editor when done, or move it out of the way. In the bottom left quadrant, select the two polygons that are the stop line areas. They are currently set to ID number 3, which represents the 4-lane stop lines. Change that to ID number 9, which represents a 2-lane, two-way stop line. Repeat the procedure to the other polygons that are meant to share the same texture. When you get to the road that's meant to be one way, setting the ID to 8 works on the right, but not on the left side. The left side should be simply an intermittent divider line, as traffic is flowing left to right. So, add a new submaterial for it, submaterial number 10, based on the appropriate bitmap, and set the face ID accordingly. When you're done, exit subobject mode and save your file. In the next movie, you finalize the roads by connecting the inner intersections.